If you are a software engineer, a DevOps engineer, or even a network engineer, you must use Git. When you look at LinkedIn jobs, one requirement that is always listed is Git. And if it's not listed there, it must be because they take it for granted that you already know it. Hey everyone, Antonio here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to look at Git, what is Git, why do we use Git, and working with Git. By the end of the video, you'll be able to use Git for your day-to-day tasks. What is Git? Git is a distributed version control system that helps developers track change to their code, collaborate with each other, and manage different versions of their project. Now, it's good to mention GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. What are these? These are different service platforms that provide hosting services for Git repositories. So nothing to worry about for now. Why use Git? Well, imagine you're working on a project with a team. Without version control, chaos would ensue. Git helps you keep everything organized, allows you to revert back to previous changes, experiment with new features, and it allows you to merge changes seamlessly. Let's break down some key concepts. First, you have repositories, which are like project folders that Git manages. Each repository contains commits, which are like snapshots of your project at a certain point in time. Then you have branches, which allows you to work on different features independently. And lastly, merging, which brings everything together. To start with, James has created a document. Kate corrects the spelling. Captain Smith fixes the grammar. Kate does some more changes to the document. And James adds a feature description. Then lastly, Captain Smith adds the company logo. Now let's say when Captain Smith did the grammar fix, he has deleted some text by mistake. Using version control, we can revert back to those changes, or even better, compare the versions of the document and find the text that is missing. Now let's see Git in action. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have Git installed on our machine. If you don't, you can go to git-scm.com/downloads and download the version that matches your operating system. For Windows, it's pretty straightforward. You download the executable, install the executable on your machine, and then open command prompt and you can follow with the video. For Linux, you can use apt or yum depending on your Linux flavor. Again, there's instructions in the download sections of this website. And for macOS, you can use brew. I'm actually going to install it on this machine as we speak. I'm going to run the installation on my Mac, so I'm going to use brew. Brew installed git is the command to run the install. And as you can see now, Homebrew is installing Git. It's running its things, downloading a few packages, etc, etc. And it should give us Git. Alright, so we have Git installed. Now we want to make sure that it's installed properly and confirming the version. And git -- version will give us that. Okay, so once Git is installed, the next thing we want to do is we want to work with Git. So for this video, I'm going to use GitHub as a Git repository. If you don't have an account yet, you can go to github.com, register with your email address, and you'll get a free account, which basically you can play with and use as your Git repository. Once your account is created,
what we want to do is we want to create a project, and I'm going to call the project YouTube, and I'm going to write something in the description just to say it's a YouTube repo. You can do this via CLI as well, but for this video I'm going to do it through the GUI, through the website. Once you hit create repository, the project is created, and GitHub will give you a few commands to get you started. I'm going to create a directory where I'll be working. I'm gonna name it YouTube_repo. You can do the same thing with Windows. It just varies a little bit from the commands I'm using. However, from now on, it will be the same. As a test, I want to write YouTube to a file called readme.md. After that, I want to run git init, which basically what it does is it's initializing a new Git repository in this directory, and it creates a new repository in that location, which enables you to start tracking changes to your files and obviously collaborate with other users in Git. After running git init, Git sets up the necessary data structure and files within that directory to start tracking changes. It also creates a .git directory where it stores all the metadata and configuration for the repository. It's not so important, but it's good to know of it. Once the repository is initialized, obviously while using git init, you can start then adding files to be tracked. And after, you can commit the changes. Git add and the file name, git commit, and I'm gonna put a comment so we can track our commits. Git branch -m, which is the switch -m main. What I'm doing is I'm renaming the branch to main. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to run git remote add origin and the URL of the project on GitHub. So when you run git remote add origin and the URL, you're telling Git to add a remote repository with the name origin, which can be any name, and the specified URL to your local repository. This allows you to interact with the remote repository, such as pushing your changes to it or pulling changes from it. Git push -u, switch -u origin main. We're pushing the changes from our local main branch to the main branch on the remote repository, named origin. Remember origin from the remote command that we have just done. This is what it's related to. The -u switch helps us for next time, so we don't have to put the whole command. After running git push, as you can see, there is an authentication error. This is because I need to generate a token in order to log in. So I'm going to show you how to do that exactly. Let's go back to github.com. You do this by clicking on the top right hand corner on your avatar, and then a menu will appear on the right hand side. Click settings at the bottom. Then going to the left side, there's developer settings at the bottom. Click on it. Then under personal access tokens, click tokens classic and generate a new token, the classic one. In the notes, you can put a reference to your token. For this video, I'm gonna hit expiration for 90 days, and I'm going to assign all the privileges to the token. Now, for security purposes, you might need to be granular, but since this is a test and not real production, I am going to assign all the privileges. So once that's done, we copy the token. It's very important to keep it in a safe place because it will only show it to you once. Then we hit git push -u origin. And as you can see, now it's asking for our credentials. We put our username and the password is our token. As you can see, it's pushing our file into the repository, into our remote repository. And as you can see, if I go to the GitHub website, there's a new file, readme.md, and YouTube inserted in it, which means we successfully pushed that file. As you can see here, there's one file change and one insertion, which refers to that file, readme.md, and YouTube is the insertion in that file. I'm going to write a new file, and in this file I'm going to write new feature, and the file name, I'm going to name it features.md. I'm going to add features.md to be tracked, and now I'm going to run git status. Now I have features.md and my changes has not been committed yet. Now it's best practice to set up your email and your name and the global configuration. Now I want to do a git commit, and I'm going to put a comment. Always put a comment, a meaningful comment, to your commits. There's a typo, but it's okay for this exercise. And after that, after the git commit, I'm gonna run a git push to push my commit. If I refresh the GitHub page, now I have the features.md with new feature written in it. Now for the next example, what I want to do is I want to remove readme.md to demonstrate removing a file. To remove a file, you run rm and the file name, in this case is readme.md. Same thing, git commit plus a meaningful message, in this case removed readme. And after that, git push. Now if I go back to the GitHub website and I refresh, I can see that readme.md is not there anymore. Let's say we have a new folder, secure. You can either do git add and then folder name with recursive, or git add period and it adds all what the root folder contains. And after that, I can run git commit, the usual command, to add it to the repository, and then I'm gonna do a git push to push the last commit to GitHub. Now let's say the folder secure, we don't want it to be in GitHub. We can create a file called .gitignore, and in this file we can specify paths or file extensions that we don't want Git to track. I'm going to add secure path now to .gitignore, so it's ignored and not tracked anymore, the folder secure. Once I do that, I can push .gitignore to the repository, and from now on, the secure folder is not tracked anymore, meaning that anything that I add or edit in secure folder will not be pushed to GitHub. Okay, let's see what are we tracking. If we run git ls-files, it's now showing, or it's still showing, secure folder. Therefore, it's not following the .gitignore, and this is because we have tracked it and then we added it to the gitignore. So the way to do it is there is a command git space rm --cached space -r and the folder that we want to remove. Now if we run git status, we can see now that it's going to remove the secure in the remote repository, and then git commit, and after git push. And now if we run git ls-files, we don't see the secure folder anymore. So it's being ignored. So what I want to demonstrate now is that if I create a file in secure folder, and the name is accounts_details version 2, put some text in, save it, and now if I run git status, you can see that there's nothing to be committed, and the folder secure, it's still not being marked, so it's being ignored. Mission accomplished. Let's say someone else is also working on the project, and what we want is we want to check if there's any files that are different from the ones we have local. So we can run git branch -r, which shows us the location, the branch, and also git fetch origin. It will check in the repository what files are different from the ones are local. The command git diff main to the main repository, which is on GitHub, we can see that now there is features.md have been modified and a few lines have been added to it. So feature 1, feature 2, and feature 3. The next thing I want to do is I want to pull the changes to the local repository. And what this does is it downloads and overrides my local repository. Now let's say there is a repository and you want to clone it. You can create a new folder. Then once you're in it, you can run git clone and the URL of the repository. And like that, you download the whole project. As you have seen, Git is not difficult. Once you start using it, you learn it, and then you start enjoying it. If you don't have a GitHub account, go on github.com, then come back to this video and follow the video from the beginning. You start using it, you start learning it, and then why not put it as a skill on your LinkedIn profile. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It will encourage me to do more videos like this.